They kind of screwed me over, switching me from an hourly employee to a salary employee. It took 25% of my payoff. And there's just all these things that led up to me realizing, you know what? I'm worth more. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't know that I was going to leave my cushy $150K job and make negative $50K.
Okay, welcome back to the Tech Jobber Podcast. We have an amazing guest today. He's about to speak on Epic Talk stage in a few hours, but we have him here in our studio right now. Jeff J. Hunter. I'm going to try to list all of his qualifications. I'm probably going to miss something, but first of all, any of these could be reason enough for him to be a guest on the show, and he has all of them. So he's one of the top paid AI consultants in the country. He's one of the original digital marketing guys in the US, has a massive branding agency called Savage Marketer, and he was one of the first people to really expand kind of that virtual assistant, whole movement that everyone's using now. So before all that, on top of all that, he was a technical project manager for a Fortune 500 company. Obviously a job I know very well. So Jeff J. Hunter, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Yeah, I'm a recovering IT project manager from past life.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I want to talk about that transition you had from, a life that obviously many people I deal with and I've placed in my recruiting business are in, and you transitioned from that to the entrepreneur world. So how did you kind of get into tech? And how'd you get into IT project management in the first place?
I've been in tech my entire life. I've always loved IT. Actually, I'll take it all the way back to when I was like 5 and 6 years old and I had my Nintendo. I think it all started with the NES. Like my parents were busy working all the time. My mom was a nurse. My dad was an entrepreneur and just trying to hustle. And honestly, they didn't have a lot of time for me. Mm-hmm. And I had me and my little sister, and we would play Nintendo. Back when you had to plug in the little dials to the UHF, VHF, we had all that stuff. Yeah. And all the countless nights of Excite Bike and Super Mario Brothers 3, those are my favorite jam. But I actually, my parents weren't, rich or anything. Believe it or not, they didn't actually support me, really going into computers and definitely the gaming side of things. Now, my dad actually had a computer store. He was a partner with somebody who owned a computer store. He was like the sales guy. And, I would be over there because, he was working and he'd bring me to work and I would just see how they build computers and things like that. And it just intrigued me. And I remember one day there was a magazine, I think it was like a Reader's Digest or something. And it had like a coding thing where it was like, you could go into DOS and you could type in like, they would give you like an app that you could build. And one of them was a catalog app that you can use for your magazines. And I was like, this is interesting. So like all the different magazines and books we had, you can create your own kind of like catalog. And I remember doing that going, whoa, this is cool. Like that was my first thought of, I can build something virtually. Mm. And at 12 years old, my grandpa dropped me off at a computer store that was near his house. And I would build computers for free, just wanted to learn how to do stuff. And so I've always really been in IT. I went to college on the IT track, went computer science, computer information systems. I was, in 2001 was the very first year that they launched a computer information systems degree at the California State University I went to. And so I've always really loved tech, but what really got me into it was I became obsessed with really remote team building. And it's, again, through video gaming. When I was in my early 20s, I used to go to this cyber cafe and this internet cafe. Yeah. It was just a LAN center. Yeah, it was just a Vietnamese ran, LAN center in California near the Bay Area. And they introduced me to video games like Counter-Strike and Defense of the Ancients and things. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And I built the very first online gaming league for that specific game. Mm. And what was really interesting was I learned really quickly how to build remote teams. So what ended up happening was I took that along with me everywhere that I went, and ended up, I was an IT director for a school district, and then I became an IT project manager for Philips Electronics.
Yeah.
And it was always about building remote teams. So that's a perfect transition, because that experience kind of gave me a little bit of, experience that was unique at the time. Back in 2012, building a remote team was like not cool.
Yeah.
It was still unheard of. The internet was barely, to the point to where you could there wasn't even Zoom calls back then,
right.
But what was really interesting was it got to a point to where I was managing remote teams of field service engineers, network engineers, that we were building out patient care environments at hospitals. And we figured out, instead of having a person on site there for an entire week, we could have a field service engineer go drop off a PC in the server rack, do a VPN remote in, and next thing you know, our engineer wouldn't have to go on site. He could just, boom, do all the work from his home.
Yeah.
That was wild to imagine back then, 2012. That was wild, right? Now, after COVID.
Yeah, now it's normal.
So that's how I became the leap from my corporate job to my entrepreneurial job was around 2014. I started thinking, what if I could build remote teams for other people as a side hustle? And that's what I did. And I thought, what's the easiest thing? Like, what is something that every business owner needs? An executive assistant. Somebody who manages your calendar, checks your email, attends calls with you, really keeps you in check, owns the to-do list, owns the calendar. And I just built a team that focuses primarily on building executive assistants for leaders and founders. And now I have 150 people at that business.
Wow. Wow. And back to the PM work. Now, from some of the interviews I watched of you, you actually started, as an employee, started integrating VAs into your day-to-day, right?
Yeah, that's how I kind of got that aha moment was, as a PM, 60% of my job was documentation, which sucks. Like, I don't know a single project manager who wakes up and goes, ooh, documentation, can't wait to do it. And it was the worst part of my job. So I ended up going on a website back when Fiverr was still $5.
Wow.
Yeah. And I found this guy who he said that he was qualified. He actually had his PMP certification. I was like, how's this possible? And his Fiverr profile was like this Pakistani guy with like, a suit and stuff. And he's like, I will work on your Microsoft projects for $5. And I was like, there's no way.
Wow.
Right? $5 an hour. And I took a chance, and I was working on a project, and I knew that it would take me a couple weeks to get this documentation done because as a project manager, you're usually managing multiple projects, and you don't have time. You really have to sit down and do that project documentation. And he said, "Yeah, my estimate is it will take about 11 to 15 hours." I was like, "Great." I gave him the task. I gave him the project documentation. The next thing you know, not even 48 hours later, he comes back and he's like, I'm done. Wow. And I was like, really? And when he gave me the Microsoft project, it was color coded. It was like 10 times better than I ever did. As a matter of fact, I couldn't even turn it into my boss because I was like,
you dumb it down.
Well, I was like, first off, there's no way he would think I got it done in 2 days.
Wow.
And not to mention, I wouldn't want to have to raise the bar again.
Sure.
So if, usually he gives me 30 days to turn in project docs. So 2 days, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And then I was also thinking, I was like, man, what would happen if they found out? I didn't know because, I don't know what would happen if they actually found out. Like, would I get in trouble? So I waited a few weeks and I kind of was hyping it up. Like, he's like, hey, how are you on the project docs for that project? I'm like, oh, I'm almost done. Give me like a week. It was already done.
Yeah.
So finally, when I turned it in, the director of the PMO office, the PMO, he was just like, the project management office was like, this is incredible. He was like, how do we get our other project managers to do this? So my regional manager, when you work for these big corporations, it's a cross matrix, right? You have two bosses.
Yep.
You have your regional manager. You have your operations manager. So the operations manager thought I was a genius. He was like, wow, this is incredible. How did you do this? My regional manager was like, dude, this is a little nutty. you know. And I told him, he said, what's your secret? And I actually made the mistake of saying what I did. I said, I actually hired somebody to help me do that. And the PMO manager, he was like, this is fantastic. My regional was like, dude, did you get this cleared by HR? And I was like, no. Right. So I actually got written up. Yeah, I actually got written up. And here's the crazy part. I was awarded top 5 project managers 3 quarters in a row before I told them what was going on.
Your secret.
Right.
Wow.
So they had a dilemma. They knew that I was performing high. You know, out of 90 something project managers, I was top 5. But they also knew that I was doing it in a way that was a little bit not, you know, by the books. And that was actually the moment that I realized I was onto something.
Yeah.
So I had other project managers come up to me and they were like, hey, you know, can you help me do that? You know, like nobody likes doing project docs. So yeah, and that kind of is what happened. Matter of fact, my company VA Staffer was started because one of my colleagues had come to me and says, can you help me get a VA to do that? And I was like, probably. And he was like, yeah. He's like, you could just be my VA staffer.
You said,
And I went to Google and went to GoDaddy, typed in vastaffer.com. It was available and I bought it.
Wow.
And I didn't know anything about marketing. I didn't know anything about SEO. If I would have known any of that stuff, I wouldn't have called it VA Staffer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, here we are 10 years later and we have 150 people and, you know, we're actually out of VAs right now. We don't have VAs for the next 45 days.
And it's all in the Philippines?
Oh yeah. Now there's a reason for that. For you guys listening in right here, this is a big deal. It is very hard, and you know this, everybody who's listening to this, if you're in tech, you know the average tenure in tech is 1.8 years. This is a fact. This is a study that was done. You can Google average tenure in tech, 1.8 years. Imagine dumping your entire life, training, support. You're giving them your trade secrets, and then 1.8 years later, they're like, I'm out. I'm going to take all the knowledge you taught me to another company, or I'm going to start my own firm.
Yeah.
I'm going to start my own thing. And in the Philippines right now, you can find really amazing talent, especially because AI is really changing the game. Call centers are actually becoming extinct. It's not happening yet, but I'm telling you, it's happening now, right? Like it hasn't happened yet, but it's happening now, right? So there's a lot of call center agents that are looking for some sustainable work. So what we do is we recruit people that work in call centers and we train them how to become really great executive assistants. They're loyal. They work harder than most Americans. Sorry, Americans, I love you to death, but they just do.
Yeah.
You know, Americans wake up and they want to figure out, well, you know what the American dream is? How can I make as much money as possible and work as little as possible?
Right.
That's the American dream, right? The work ethic in America is really lacking right now.
Yeah.
They've all read Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Work Week.
Yeah. I was going to say, now everyone's read the 4-Hour Work Week, but you were doing this kind of before that became very popular.
You know,
right?
to be honest with you, I really love that book. It's made me a lot of money.
Sure.
There's another one, Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time. You know, there's a lot of great, you know, the E-Myth. There's a lot of great books that I've read. I've even bought them for my clients because it really is an incredible thing, especially as an entrepreneur, to know that your business can run without you. Most entrepreneurs never get to feel that. They never get to wake up and know what it's like. They can't take a day off. God forbid they take a week off. What do? They look at their phone all the time.
Yeah.
If I'm being 100% honest with entrepreneurs right now, can you step away, take a vacation for a week without a phone or a computer, and your business crumble?
Right.
Not crumble.
I definitely can't.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I'm at a point where I can. And so that's what I'm doing right now is I'm literally just teaching people how to build a team that doesn't require you, a self-managed team. And to do that, you need reliable people. You need people that you can rely on that aren't going to bounce with your tech secrets. Let me tell you another secret. Don't hire a VA.
Okay.
Do not hire someone who is already a VA. Because guess what? If you go to Google, if you go into Facebook and look at all the groups of Filipino virtual assistants, they're all selling the same dream, how to make all sorts of money as a freelance VA. You know what freelance VAs do? They juggle 5-6 clients for $1,000 a month or whatever, and they brag about how much money they make and how much work they don't do.
Yeah.
So
do they then outsource to other people?
Wow. So I don't hire VAs. That's why I recruit call center agents, people that have employee mindset. But I want them to be entrepreneurs, people that they're hungry and they want to make money, and they're already used to working American hours as a call center agent, which is half the battle.
Yeah.
To get them to work from 9 to 5 on American hours, and they're so appreciative, man. They're so appreciative. Like it's nuts. Like I try to set my team up with incentives. Like I want to reward them for working and putting in the work and actually getting me results. And that's really where, I think all of us should look at as far as like the future of work, especially with AI. There's so much you can do more right now with AI than you could before, especially with a Filipino VA. I would never have a Filipino VA in the past, like do my social media content.
Yeah.
Because you can tell. But if I set up an AI persona, which is basically an AI employee that's already trained on how to write like me, all I have to have is a VA go in and operate it. That's it.
And just prompt it correctly, and then you're good.
Yeah.
So a couple questions on that. I mean, what are you paying the people, or what are your clients paying the people monthly? And then there's probably a bonus system for a lot of the companies.
Yeah. So right now we operate, just in transparency, we operate on like a 35% margin. The markup's a little bit more than that, but after the maintenance and management, I have 10 leaders on my team. So every morning at 9 a.m. I have 10 people that are in charge of their own division of the company. Wow. Right? So we have sales team, we have the onboarding, training, we have the HR manager, we have the creative team manager, and then so those are the 5 project managers, and then each of those 5 project managers have their own number 2. Like they have their own assistant, right? So like it's assistant inception at the company, right? And it's funny because this is a new thing. It's only been like that for 2 years. It used to be everyone was their leader, and I didn't have assistants for the leaders, but it's been the biggest thing because you know what that assistant does? Holds somebody accountable. And I found entrepreneurs, that's the number one thing that they struggle with usually, is that accountability. Because we as entrepreneurs, we create our business because we want freedom. Yeah. We don't want to be held accountable, honestly. So having someone who wakes up every day and they own your to-do list and they say, here's what we need to do today. Like my assistant sent me like 3 messages about this podcast today. Wow. She's like, are you going to be able to make it? Should I message him on Instagram? My assistant messaged you to set this up on Instagram, right? Yeah. And, just a lot of entrepreneurs don't have that luxury of just, it's the brain space that we're using. And, this is something that you have to think about. If you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant. Yeah.
You're doing the meaningless tasks that are not they're not the revenue drivers, correct?
Right. I don't even have a Calendly. Wow. I don't even have a booking link. If people want to get on my calendar, they go through my gatekeeper, which is my assistant. Huh. She manually sends out the invites. She's probing questions. Hey, what's the agenda? What's the point of this? Like she probably screened you. Like, what's the point of the podcast? Yep. Right? Like
100%.
Yeah. And she's been my assistant now, as of last month, 3 years. And, the first 3 to 6 months is the worst, they're the least valuable they're ever going to be because they're still learning your business. They're figuring out what you do. They're going to know they have to learn what emails are important to you, what types of people are important to you, what's not important to you, who gets on the calendar, who doesn't get on the calendar. But once, 6 months hits and they understand you, it's like having an absolute extension of you. Wow. And it's one of the most powerful things you could possibly do. My assistant wakes up 1 hour before I even log into work. She's working. So when I wake up, instead of reaching for my phone and seeing 100 emails and messages, whatever, she's already gone through that stuff.
And just a to-do list from there when you wake up?
Wow. She's like, here's 3 emails that you need to address. I got the rest. Right? Wow. And it's just a beautiful feeling that anybody, I want everyone to feel that. Not just... honestly, I'm not even trying to sell VAs here because I don't have any for the next 45 days. I just want, I just want people to experience what it's like to have somebody who wakes up every day dedicated to making you look good.
Mm. Now, a question so obviously we're going to get to the COVID years and the AI, all that good stuff. And when you kind of got into the branding space as well, but One question I had is in the VA space. COVID hits, everyone's remote. I knew some people that were using VAs to apply to new jobs. I know some people that are using VAs kind of like you were to basically they're working 3-4 jobs and they have VAs on each one and they're just collecting multiple paychecks. Have you ever encountered anything like that?
That's wild. May or may not.
Yeah.
I cannot confirm nor deny.
Yes, we will not be giving any names. But so are you seeing more employees using your services?
So most of what I'm specifically built to do is to support leaders. So I do have people who have executive assistants, like in office, like human executive assistants that are there in the office, right? Like in America. And then that assistant will have one of our Filipino VAs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like the assistant's assistant type thing. And this is the natural progression. Here's a clip. Here's a clip for the podcast. This is a beautiful thing. So I was just talking about how important it is to have an executive assistant who knows your business, who's worked with you for a period of time. Why that's important is because over time they'll become more valuable, and then they will be able to take on more things to where there's lower level tasks that don't make sense for them to do anymore, right? So our biggest sales tool is actually our own executive assistants who become more valuable, and they need to backfill the stuff that they're just above now.
Yeah.
Right? Like for example, my assistant has 2 assistants. So my assistant, her name is Jackie. She has one assistant is named Clarence, and the other one is Lizelle. So Lizelle and Clarence have 2 very specific roles. Clarence manages my social media inboxes. I get a lot of messages on social media and LinkedIn and stuff like that. So he's doing outreach. So like if I'm in the middle of a campaign or if I want to get on podcasts and stuff like that, he'll actually go out and he'll connect with podcast hosts, and he'll like their content, and he'll write and engage, and it'll be like me, right? And then Lizelle, she's the one who's managing all my Facebook groups and stuff like that. So she's engaging with people in there, recording all their email addresses into a spreadsheet, loading them into the CRM. Like this is like full-time jobs. Like there's a lot of stuff when you start growing a real brand. You know, I get 40, 50 people that try to join my AI Facebook group. It's called AI for Business. I get 40, 50 people a day that try to join that group. So she's screening them, making sure that they're not there to, spam and scam. And then, like putting all their information into a spreadsheet, loading into the CRM. So there becomes a point to where like that is not a great use of time for my executive assistant. So we've hired people to backfill that stuff because she was doing that. Wow. My assistant at one point was doing all of that stuff.
And she just had no time left to do your important tasks, I guess.
Well, now, especially with AI, she's doing things that make me more money. So revenue generating activities. For example, I have 2 presentations I'm doing today. One I did for Digital Marketer this morning because I'm faculty there. So I did a 25-minute presentation. She made the slides for me last night. It was a last-minute request they asked me. And then today, you and I are going to be at that same event at the Epic Talks Miami. And she was basically creating all my PowerPoint slides for that. And then, she gets them about 80% there. And then I spend about 20%, fixing it up, getting it dialed in. And this is the kind of stuff that's the most valuable to me.
Yeah.
Because I am not the most organized person. Actually, Melissa was just asking me last night. She goes, how do you keep it all together? How do you're doing this, you're speaking at this, you're doing that. And even when I told her I was coming here, she's like, no way, you're doing that too? She's like, how do you keep it all together? And I'm like, I have a secret weapon. The secret weapon is I have someone who wakes up every day and makes sure that I got my shit together. Wow. Right? Wow. And that's just something that anybody in any position can do. That's the key.
So basically you start doing the VA stuff, then you start getting speaking engagements, and then eventually you start realizing, okay, now I'm kind of doing my own personal brand. So then you kind of teach others how to do that.
Funny story. I built my own personal brand out of spite. Yeah. So in late 2016, early 2017, I just literally took the leap left my corporate job February 29th of 2016. So on leap day, I took the leap.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was crying and praying about it. I was like, man, I don't know if I really want to do this. Like, I felt like, you know, in the corporate world, like they didn't love me the way that they should have. They didn't care about me the way I should have. My wife and I had a miscarriage. They wouldn't even let me take a day off. Wow. You know, my grandfather was dying. My dad was dying of cancer. They promised me that they would let me move back to California to be with my family after about 2 years. 4 years later, they wouldn't let me move back. There's just a lot of things. And they kind of screwed me over, switching me from an hourly employee to a salary employee. It took 25% of my payoff. And there's just all these things that led up to me realizing, you know what? I'm worth more. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't know that I was going to leave my cushy $150K job and make negative $50K. Sure. As an entrepreneur, my first year.
Wow.
It was brutal. And I didn't even have money. Mm-hmm. But one of my mentors said, hey, there's this guy and he's a branding PR specialist and we can hire him. He's like $10K and he's going to work on your brand. He's going to help you work on your origin story and all this stuff. And he's going to get me published on all these things. And I was like, all right. And we're going to split it 50-50. So $5K. I'm like, I didn't have the money, but like, screw it. Let's do it, you know? And it ended up being a massive scam. And I ended up flying out to Boise, Idaho, because believe it or not, he actually was speaking at Russell Brunson's inner circle. Huh. So I thought, dude, there's no way this guy's a scam. He's a big deal, right?
What was the scam about it?
That he was going to do all this stuff. And when I showed up in person, it was a PR workshop. He didn't fulfill any of his promises. Wow. He didn't help me work on my origin story. When he did, he just gave me a template. And the template was like, I want you to use this as a template. You know what the template was? It was another story of a gay black man who fled Africa, religious persecution in Africa, and started a business in America.
Just
and I was like,
insert your details and delete it.
I'm like, yeah, that's totally something I can copy paste.
Wow.
And then he gave all the training. Then the training he did was he had us watch videos that were publicly available on his Facebook page. And me and my partner looked at each other halfway through and we were like, do we want to continue this? I'm like, no. And he would never give me a refund. He never admitted it, nothing like that. And I was broke at this point, so I had to figure it out myself.
Yeah.
I tried to take the good news and say, look, at least I know what I need to do that he promised. And I just went and I figured it out because I was broke and desperate. And I figured it out. I was like, okay, I figured out how to build my brand. I figured out how to become a speaker. I figured out how to publish a book. I figured out all these things on my own, broke. So I had no choice. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I finally got to a point to where I was successful and I was able to build a really great brand. And then people started asking me, because I kind of came up pretty quick from 2017 to 2018, you know, going from literally a nobody to speaking on really prestigious stages, like becoming faculty at digitalmarketer.com, for example, you know, in a span of about a year and a half. And funny story, I did enact my revenge. I've never told the story. Ryan Dice, don't get mad at me. I love you. But I saw that he was speaking at one of their events. And I actually made a Facebook post and I said, how would you feel if a scam artist who's taken $10,000 from you was speaking on the most prestigious stage in digital marketing? And I had all these people. I actually almost took the post down because there were all these people. There was like 100 comments on there and people were literally like tagging people. Oh, was it this person? People. Was it this person? I was like, oh my God, I don't want to get in trouble for this. And then Ryan Dice actually reached out to me. He goes, hey, are you talking about our event? And I was like, yeah. And I kind of outed this guy. Yeah. And he's like, well, let me do some research, because he had really big testimonials. He had like Frank Kern. Mm-hmm. He had like Russell Brunson. And I was like, man, this is legit guy, right? And he basically introduced me to his number 2 and was like, let's do some research here and figure it out. And next thing you know, he goes, yep, we confirmed that those people actually never paid him money. That he basically went to celebrities and was like, hey, I'll do your PR for free. It's usually $50K, but I want to be able to sell to your people.
And spend all his time on their stuff while taking your money, probably.
Bingo. Well, here's the truth. Let's be honest. It's pretty. If you can't do PR for Ryan Dice and Frank Kern and Russell Brunson, dude, come on, man. If you can't do PR for guys that are already big, that would be like, that would be the easiest job, doing PR for Grant Cardone or you know what I mean? It's like he's already famous, bro. Like you don't doing
Promotes
PR.
himself.
Doing PR for someone like me who was a nobody. That's hard.
Yeah.
So he ended up getting banned at all future events, and Digital Marketer invited me to come in and be on their speaker vetting committee.
Wow.
And that's how it all started. So now I look back and I say, you know what? That was the best $5,000 I ever spent.
Yeah.
Because I've now have the connections that I need. I have used it to figure out how to do it on my own. And people started coming up to me saying, hey, I love what you've done. What's the secret? What did you do? And that's when I basically started the Savage Marketer BrandedMedia brand, where it's like, how do we create a brand that truly stands out, that makes an impact, that, it's more than this. One of my good friends and partners, her name's Trisha. She kind of implanted this thing in my head that's really brilliant, which is about most people when they think about marketing, they think about a brand. They're not thinking about the movement behind the brand. See, people think that I'm the savage marketer. It's not that I'm the savage marketer. I'm just the person who started the movement of the savage marketer. All of us are savage marketers.
Yeah.
If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a leader, even if you're an intrapreneur and you're doing some cool stuff in your business inside someone else's business, like if you're a mover and shaker, there's a little bit of savage in you, in all of us. So she taught me about the importance of like really making your brand a movement.
What year did you establish Savage Marketer?
That was 2018. Yeah.
Okay.
2018 was when I said, you know what, in 2019, well, in 2018, I started BrandedMedia, and it kind of progressed into the Savage Marketer brand. Cause there was this saying that I heard once, and I loved it. It was that, you can be average or you can be savage. And I was like, you know what? That just rung out to me, right?
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was thinking, well, you can be an average marketer or you can be a savage marketer.
Wow.
And then I just figured out how to get attention. I've gone viral on every platform. Well, not every, but Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. I've tested how to go viral on every platform. I've gotten over 250 million views on some videos on TikTok that I got shared on Pubicity. I got shared on Hood Vids. I got a 9-gag meme about me. I've got all sorts of stuff. So,
what are you seeing now? Because I thought it was interesting. I was viewing some of your old videos. Saw one from 2020, and it was basically the playbook that I started a year ago, which was podcast, short form, kind of just omnipresence. So you were 3 years ahead of anything I was doing. So what are you seeing going in the future?
People aren't going to like to hear this. We live in this weird ass age of AI, and everybody's trying to use AI as the easy way out. But the number one thing is you have to have a human connection with people. And now that everybody can be a content creator, like just before this podcast, I was using HeyGen, where I've created an AI clone of myself to make a video for something that was due today that I forgot about because I'm not at my recording studio. So I have a clone of me in my recording studio that all I have to do is paste the script in, and it will read the script as me. Wow. Okay? And by the way, most people would be hard pressed, especially if you don't know me, to not know that that's AI. Like you would never know that it's AI.
Really?
That's the technology, and this is old technology. This isn't even what's coming out now. Like this is like, I made this 6 months ago in HeyGen, for $30 a month. So we're getting to a point to where there's two important things. Number one, you're going to have to double, triple, quadruple down on the personal brand, because content is not king anymore.
Yeah.
Hate to say it. It's easier than ever to make content. Content is being polluted and colluded. You have to build a strong brand that people can trust, because People want to follow somebody. They want to know that they can trust you and that you're being authentic. Number two, it's never been more important than right now to build a community. You need to have what I call permission-based marketing. When people sign up for your email list, when people sign up for your Facebook group, when people are buying your programs, there has to be a community element where you're getting, like I do weekly calls in my community every Wednesday.
School community?
5 p.m. every Wednesday, Pacific time. Facebook group, Zoom, whatever, doesn't matter. School, I don't care. There has to be some sort of element to where you are building that human connection with people. Doesn't have to be a weekly basis like me. I recommend a weekly basis. And the reason being is because remember, the more time you spend with people, the more they trust you. Even if it's just a weekly podcast where you bring people in or whatever, you know, like whatever. Like for me, I share AI tips every Wednesday. So I pop on a Zoom with my paid members. They pop in. And then what I do is I have a free community. I have like almost 5,000 people in there. I get 40, 50 people every day. And I'll just like, there's a new update for Meta AI, which by the way, I love Meta AI. It's super underrated right now. Yeah. Like Facebook's Meta AI. You can create images. They have a new selfie thing now. You didn't even know that, but you can literally use the Facebook app. You go to the search bar, type in imagine me as a dragon or imagine me as a knight. And then it'll say, sure, let me take some pictures of you. It'll take 3 selfies straight on, side, and it will just literally make AI versions of you for free.
Wow.
Right? So I teach a little training in there for free in my Facebook group. You know, I drop a 10, 15 minute live video in there, just like, hey guys, check out this new feature. And it draws people in. It makes people trust you. It makes them value you. And every time they see me, they think, you know what, every time Jeff goes live, he's dropping some value. And that's the type of work it's going to take moving forward, is to just not be a taker. And not, but by the way, you don't essentially have to be a giver, but you do have to show people that you authentically care. And to do that, you have to build a connection with people. And by the way, the power of storytelling right now, so important.
Yeah.
Like you have to have a story. I'm sorry. No one anymore is just, you know, like it's like even, dude, Frank Kern, right? Miami guy. Now he's in California, I think. Or no, he's in San Diego. Frank Kern. I just saw on Instagram, all his new ads are not even digital. You know what he's doing? He's writing text on a notebook and he's taking a picture of it.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And that
totally stands out.
And see, here's the one thing I can tell you about AI. Right now, AI is being used so much and it doesn't know how to plot a divergent strategy. This is where us as marketers have an advantage because everybody's using AI. Everything's starting to sound the same. Now's the time to zag. When everyone's zigging, you got to zag.
What are you seeing now? We're seeing brands wanting to work with kind of niche followings or micro influencers, or they call them. What are you seeing now?
It's not really about the audience size. I think it's about the actual influence, you know? And I think that's a funny thing that's progressed and evolved over the years, you know, like influencer marketing, you know, it's like, it's a buzzword. It's almost taboo because, you know, your follower count doesn't actually equate to your influence. You know, we have people, you can buy 100,000 followers on Fiverr. You know, they're all fake.
Right.
So, you know, I think what's really important is, can you work with a brand that can actually work with the minds? Oh. I'll start that part over when he fixes it. It's messing with you now, huh?
Yeah.
I'll just start over at the tech influencer part, yeah? So I think the evolution of influencer marketing is interesting. It's not really about the audience size. It's about how much influence that a person has over that audience. Like for me, I only have 40,000 followers on Facebook, but I can make a post that makes 50 grand. You know, I can sell to my audience easily because they trust me, you know? And for me, if somebody comes to me, like for example, Epic Talks, you know, I'm going to be dropping a workshop tonight. So we've already planned out what we call an offer stack, where I'm going to show people what they can use with AI, and then we're going to offer them a piece. And I know you're in her inner circle. We're going to give people an opportunity to experience, her 5-figure inner circle for a 4-figure price. So for $1,000, they'll be able to attend a workshop that I'm hosting for you guys on October 12th. But I'm giving them the opportunity to come, and she wants to bring people in and show them the value of what it's like to be in her program. So we're doing a profit share. So I'm selling it at a massively discounted price, and I'm obviously, investing in our relationship with me and her and building something together. And when people see what we're going to be doing, which is literally helping people develop out AI personas, which are these AI employees that'll do their marketing and do their social media and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to do it for $1,000. They get to show up for a 3-hour workshop October 12th, right? For $1,000.
Yeah.
And so I know that that's going to be something that her audience is going to want. She obviously brought me in because she knows her audience wants that. And she wants to actually provide value to people. And I think the in-person event, especially after COVID and all that stuff happened, I think people really miss that human connection. I think that's why Epic Talks is doing so well, is because people just want that human interaction, that human connectivity that was lost during the COVID years. I'll say years, because really, especially if you live in California, you guys in Florida didn't experience it that much, right? But in California, we were shut down for like a year and a half. Like my kids didn't even go to school for a year. It's just wild. We had a completely remote work, remote school, remote everything. And, this mental issues and everything. So people just want to get back in it. So back to the influencer size, Ari, who is a mega influencer online, has 2.3 million followers. This is an example of not influence. Not influence is having 2.3 million followers. She got a clothing deal. All she had to do was sell 10 shirts. 10 shirts. And she couldn't sell 10 shirts to her 2.3 million followers.
Wow. Why is that?
She didn't have influence. They followed her because she posts really nice selfies of her butt. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's just people don't care about her brand.
Right.
They care about her butt. I'm just being honest. It's just like you have to think about why people follow you. And people follow me. Like I have a newsletter, for example. I have a newsletter called Just the Tip, which, by the way, Melissa helped me come up with that name.
I'm on that. That's great.
You're on that?
Yeah. And
I have a human team that writes that newsletter. Is it AI assisted? Absolutely. The AI does all the research. It even helps write some of the newsletter, but it's all vetted by my human staff to make sure that every episode's valuable. We share tools, tips, ways to use AI. Like there's no such thing as a garbage AI newsletter on our newsletter. And so I know that I have massive influence with people that are on my list. If I say use this tool, people are going to use that tool. So for me, I'm always looking at it from a sponsorship perspective. Well, can I have my newsletter be sponsored by a tool? By the way, I haven't even taken a sponsorship yet on it because I really just wanted to lead with value. We've done over 80 issues now. We're doing we do an issue of the newsletter 5 times a week. So 5 days a week. And we've had it now for 4 or 5 months now.
Yeah.
So 5 times 4, whatever that number is, it's a lot, right? Yeah. It's like 20 to 30, issues a month. Let's say 20 times 4, right? So it's like 100. We've probably done 100 newsletters plus right now. So how can you provide value and build trust with people? That's the key of real influence today.
And going back to the AI thing, obviously you had a bit of a freak out moment when ChatGPT was released, and you said, "I have a VA agency. Why are people going to do that when they can just use ChatGPT?" So what happened there?
Yeah. So desperation happened. Yeah. I mean, in 2022, in November, when ChatGPT came out, I really was like, do people even need a human VA anymore? Because AI and the promise is pretty big. I mean, even when ChatGPT came out for free, I was like, holy crap, this is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, would would it be crazy if I told you that the highest adoption rate of AI right now is students who don't want to do homework?
Yeah.
Which reminds me, I convinced a 19-year-old to drop out of college and come work to me and be my AI copywriter. So she manages all my AI copy. All the emails you're getting from Melissa's event was written by AI by my copywriter. Wow. So my human copywriter who manages my AI copywriter tools. And this one copywriter, by the way, her name's Jalen. Shout out to Jalen. 19 years old.
Wow.
19 years old. Does the work of all 5 of my previous copywriters. And she's young. She's fresh. She's open. She's the same reason she got in, learned AI, because she didn't want to do homework. So we're at this interesting time where in November of 2022, ChatGPT came out and I got kind of frantic. Like, why would someone hire a Filipino VA when they can use ChatGPT that writes perfect?
Yeah.
And then I realized something. I created a task force. We called the AI division of VA staffer. I flew to the Philippines. I brought 7 of my best together that were on my task force and said, guys, how can we prove to our clients and the world that we're better than AI? You know, the sad part is, after I started showing them all the stuff we could do with ChatGPT, they were like, we can't beat this. It's like this weird moment of reality where it's like, damn, this is good.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like that old cliche, you know, if you can't beat them, join them. Mm-hmm. And we flipped our mentality and said, well, how can we empower our Filipino virtual assistants to do more with AI? That was the key. Mm-hmm. So now we have the virtual assistants doing things that they never could before, thanks to Claude, thanks to Gemini, thanks to Meta AI, thanks to ChatGPT. It's writing social media content. It's writing newsletters. It's writing blogs. It's helping do strategy, which I'd never have a Filipino VA help me with strategy. Mm-hmm. You know, like they're all execution team usually.
Yeah.
So now they're even more valuable. Like now they take perfect meeting minutes every time because they can throw the transcript in, totally understand stuff. So if they're not really grasping something, the AI can actually help them understand it natively, right? So we figured out a way to just make the VAs super powered with AI. And now, like I said, I'm out of VAs. I can't even keep up with the demand right now. We're hiring about 15 VAs every 45 days. It takes about 45 days because we have, and you know this in the recruitment industry, you know, for us, because we're recruiting people that specifically don't have experience, we specifically don't want people that have experience as a VA because, like I said, we don't want freelancers. We don't want entrepreneurs. One of the worst things you can do as an entrepreneur is hire an entrepreneur.
Right.
Unless it's a project base. If you're hiring someone to do this, do that, do this, and it's project based, hire an entrepreneur, right? But if you want someone who's going to wake up every day committed to you and doesn't have any other business to worry about, you hire someone who's got a dedicated mindset, someone who wakes up and thinks about you. Mm-hmm. So what ended up happening was we really figured out how to get a virtual assistant trained up from 0 to hero in 45 days. So they do 4 weeks of intensive training, calendar management, email management, you know, how to take meeting minutes, how to help organize the to-do list of crazy, busy, never have time entrepreneurs. And then we have a whole week of AI training where they learn how to do copywriting, social media, stuff like that. And then after those 30 days of training, they do 2 weeks of shadowing our already senior executive assistants. So they get put to work on the job training right then and there. So it takes me 45 days from the day I hire somebody until the day that they are placed with a client. And by the way, if 10 years ago I knew what I knew now, I would not have started a VA business.
Yeah.
It is so hard to scale because you have to find really good people. Mm-hmm. You know, the lesson, you know, I've hired hundreds and hundreds of people to get to the 150 I have now. And the one thing I'll tell you is that when it comes to people, and this is probably a pain point that many of you guys out there know, especially recruiters, is that, you know, people are people. They have problems, you know, they lack motivation. Sometimes they have family issues. Like my trainer right now, the reason why we're so behind right now is because my trainer who actually educates and trains the team, her dad just died of a heart attack on Friday, and I'm giving her 2 weeks off bereavement. And AI doesn't do that, you know? And I think we're at this weird fork in the road where humans are actually having to compete with the AI, because why would we hire a human when an AI never complains, never calls in sick, never has family issues, never is going to take, well, technically it shouldn't steal your ideas. Right. We'll see how OpenAI and Claude all work out. But at the end of the day, it's there, 24/7 access with no complaints. If it, especially in marketing and copywriting, it never rolls its eyes when you ask for a revision, doesn't ask for time off or a raise.
Doesn't get butthurt when you ask for a revision either.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And, you know, so what I've found is this interesting mix of setting up AI to do specific things and then training operators to run the AI. I feel like that's the future of tech. I feel like that's the future of this future of work, is more of a human and AI collaboration is really where I see it going.
And so getting to the point of this podcast, what would you recommend as far as from a job perspective? You know, what should they be learning? Should they be learning Python?
Let me tell you something.
Data sets.
You guys are going to be mind blown. I don't know if you know this figure. The U.S. Census Bureau put out a report. How many businesses in America, percentage-wise, how many percent of American business owners right now are using AI? For business, not just messing around.
I bet it's a lot smaller than people think.
3.8%.
I was going to say 5 and thinking it was super low. Wow.
The Bureau says that probably by the end of 2024, it's going to go to 6.4%. So let me ask you another question. Business Insider did a report on this. ResumeBuilder.com. Resume and Indeed did a research report and publicized what the number one skill that 91% of all job applications have on them right now. What do you think it is?
Prompt.
ChatGPT. How to use AI. This is what I call the AI disparity gap. So you have 3.8% of businesses in America using AI. 91% of businesses looking for people that know how to use AI. There's a massive gap. So if you're in tech, you don't have to learn prompts. You have to learn training data. You have to learn how to use the AI. And I'll drop another bomb for you. You don't need massive prompt knowledge. I think prompt engineer is a job that's already come and gone. It's done. Yeah. Because the AI is smart enough now to even understand what you're trying to do, even if you're bad at giving instructions. So the important thing to know is you need to build training data. So for example, I have 100 of my most viral posts as a copywriter. That's what I do. I have 10,000 plus posts. I have a VA named Clarence, by the way. Oh, that's my VA's VA, Clarence. He has, at the end of every month, he goes back onto my social media posts and he collects and he copies and pastes all my posts into a spreadsheet. How many comments they have, how many likes they get, how many shares they get. Is it long form, short form? What's it about virtual assistants or politics or whatever? And so I have all this data and I did this before AI, by the way. I've been doing this since 2017. So I have all this data that I've collected that literally just helps people, that I use as training data to help educate the AI on how to write like me. So I've made $282,000 last year in 2023 just teaching companies how to build training data with 2 prompts. Number 1, analyze the data. Number 2, imitate my writing style and write something about whatever.
Wow.
And if you have good data, you don't need to have good prompts, because all the prompts are instructions on how to use the data. So if you get anything out of today, it's that if you're looking at tech and saying, where can I fit in? How, from the job standpoint, whether you have a job, you're looking for a job, you're recruiting new people for a job, whatever that is, just know that training data is really important, and understanding the different tools to use. So for example, if you're doing something long form, you're going to use Claude. Claude allows you to import like a 500-page book as training data. ChatGPT, it only lets you import like 4,000 to 5,000 words. So obviously, the more data that you give it, it's going to perform better. It's going to imitate better. So that's a really important factor.
Yeah. So kind of sticking to some of the data sciences, data engineering.
Yeah, data engineering, really important. Data science, obviously, just knowing how to program language models, understanding how to clean data. A lot of data is not ready for AI. So AI, for example, if you have, a lot of people are making a simple mistake. There's a lot of website scrapers, for example. If you go online and scrape an entire website, well, it's going to grab the terms and conditions, privacy policy. It's going to grab a bunch of contact forms, stuff that you don't need, whatever. And that data is going to be useless. So you want to filter out the data. Another example is, let's just say I want to write a blog or let's say a social media post, but it scraped all my blog information. Well, I want to build a data set of only my top performing social media content. If I want blogs, I'm going to create a data set of just my top performing blogs. If I want to write a tweet, I'm going to take a data set of top performing tweets, right? Top performing, you want an email marketer AI? Well, I'm going to take my top performing emails. So it's important to really, in your AI readiness, that's what I would call it, AI readiness. Like, what is the AI readiness of a company? I think there's a massive demand right now for companies that want to leverage AI and they don't know how to do it. And they just need a trusted person to plug in and actually make them AI ready and give useful, practical things. And if you want to monetize, if you want to get a job, if you know how to use AI to drive revenue through marketing, that's the easiest way, because now you're a moneymaker.
Yeah.
If you can come into a business and say, look, let's use AI to write, 100 emails to nurture your non-buying leads into a nurture sequence. I mean, who has time to write 100 emails?
Yeah.
AI can do it in a day.
So who is your, two last questions. Who is like your typical customer that you're using? Obviously, those 97% of businesses are, kind of your new customers. But
Yeah.
like, what's your typical profile?
My profile is, either some sort of an entrepreneur or leader, someone who, understands that their best use of time is probably not optimized. They're probably spending a lot of time doing repetitive things. They are their own assistant. And, they're not able to focus on that zone of genius every day. They know that if they did, they would be able to build their empire, right? Whether they're an entrepreneur or entrepreneur, like a lot of my clients are also like leaders inside companies, and we build out executive assistant teams inside corporations. So I'd say entrepreneurs and, intrapreneurs would be like my main thing.
Okay. And then last question, give us your AI tech stack for personal use. Obviously Claude for the long posts, when you're a lot of data.
Huge Claude fan.
Give us everything.
I use Claude for long form social media posts, for email marketing. I use it to help come up with strategy and titles. I love that. Now, the things that are wrong with Claude, which is I still use ChatGPT for, it doesn't do any image generation. Okay. It doesn't go and search the web. It doesn't do that. So usually if I'm doing like a market research or analysis, I'll use ChatGPT because it can go out to websites and scrape data, right? Now, ChatGPT is still, to me, the best bang for your buck. It doesn't write as good, but it does a lot of things like for example, it can create QR codes. So the event that we're doing tonight, all the QR codes, we made it with ChatGPT. I was just complaining with my design team because I actually spent like a couple $100 getting this giant, banner made, like one of those pull-up banners. And I was so excited. And so I ordered it and the event was a month later. And by the time I got to the event, the QR code expired because they were using one of those online QR code generators, which I never have to worry about because it's hard programmed with code in Python in ChatGPT.
Wow.
So it's a permanent QR code.
Yeah.
For free, right? I mean, you have to pay the $20 a month.
Yeah.
But that's it, right? So ChatGPT, now, for cloning yourself, video, audio, HeyGen, I think for the money, it's like $39 a month, hands down winner. If I showed you a video of me on HeyGen, you would be like, wow, that looks and sounds just like you, because it does. Mm-hmm. And the cool part is, even if you suck on video, you can use one of their pre-made AI avatars and just feed it a script and it will do all that work for you. You don't have to worry about it.
So Claude or ChatGPT writes the script, HeyGen has the video of you, and now it's just automating that?
Exactly. Wow. Now, let me throw out a couple tools you're going to like. Suno. Look up Suno, S-U-N-O.
Okay.
It's an AI audio platform that will make full-on songs. It's good. I use it for all my videos. I just say, look, I want, like a EDM chill, house music background, and then I want it to have light vocals about, whatever, and it will just make something, or just say no vocals or whatever, and it will just make the beats for you. It does a really good job. I even had it do some like dubstep screamo. Oh my God. Yeah, like just for experimenting. So Suno. Here's the other one you're gonna love, Runway. Runway is a video AI creation tool, and it's so cool. You can do some really cool stuff with that. So Runway, Suno, ChatGPT, Claude, HeyGen. I would say 90% of everything that I do is on those platforms, and I'm going to bring up one underrated one that we talked about earlier, which is just Meta.ai.
Yeah.
We as Americans have a massive advantage because it's not available overseas right now. Meta AI uses Llama 3.1 as of today. Llama 3.1 is super powerful. It will create images for you. It will create selfies of you, and it's available on WhatsApp. You can do it on WhatsApp, Messenger, Facebook. And I highly recommend you guys just try using the AI selfie feature.
Yeah.
Just go to Facebook or go to WhatsApp, start typing, imagine me as a superhero, and then just watch it make you a Superman or whatever.
And just write in the search bar on Instagram or Facebook, right?
It's on Facebook and WhatsApp. Yeah,
Facebook. Okay, not on Instagram.
If you go on Facebook and type in the search bar, just type "imagine me as a superhero," you'll see that blue circle, the Meta blue circle. You click on that, it'll say, "Great, I'd love to, but first we need to take some photos." And there's a Get Started button. You click it, it'll say, take a picture, looking at it, smile, turn left, turn right, boom, and then it'll literally superimpose your photo into whatever you want.
Wow.
So yeah, like my wife has been sending me pictures all day. For her, she's a huge French bulldog owner. Like, she loves Frenchies, and she's been sending me pictures of it making her logo for her new website that she's using. She's using ChatGPT to redo all the copy on her website, come up with a logo, all the stuff that she never had time to do. You can just do so much with AI, guys. Do not sleep on it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's like, because I saw you speak in January, and it's already like there's new recommendations. A few months later. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when I spoke in January, I had just ended my year-long experiment. It wasn't even a year; it was 9 months. A 9-month experiment of how much money I could make as an AI consultant. Yeah. I literally don't like consulting. I don't like coaching. I don't take on those types of clients. I only did it primarily to prove to people that you could make money just teaching AI. Mm-hmm. And even for me, when I just got a revised tax bill from my so I know how much money I made. Yeah. And unlike a staffing agency, it's 100% profit.
Yeah.
So I paid more taxes last year than I ever had in my life.
Wow.
And I was like, damn, that's crazy,
Wow, incredible. Any last words? I'm definitely going to check out HeyGen as soon as we get out of here.
Yeah, I think the important thing to know is just like, don't think of AI as anything else than a way to expand and multiply what you're doing. I think a lot of people, there's a million AI apps out there, and it's easy to get confused. Stick to things that are going to move the needle. Everybody sucks at emailing their email list. Everybody sucks at coming up with social media content. Everybody sucks at building their own personal brand. They're usually busy working. So if you just use AI to fill a bunch of gaps in your life to where it's like you can actually move the needle, that's the key. I just don't get overwhelmed. I've given you a bunch of tools here. Just play around with them, see what you like. And, you know, I think the other thing is too, AI, it's evolving so fast.
Yeah.
It hasn't even been 2 years since ChatGPT came out. It hasn't even been 2 years. And look at what we are doing today. Mm-hmm. So look at what's happening right now. And I will say one last thing, which is Tesla, if you're listening to this, I want that Optimus. Have you seen the Optimus?
Yeah.
You seen the robot?
Yeah.
I want that. I want that in my house. I reached out to the Neo team. They have another AI robot, Neo X, like it's 1X Technologies. Like I am ready to market the hell out of somebody's actual AI humanoid robot. It's been a dream ever since I was a kid to have Data from Star Trek living in my house, and we're this close. Think about this though. Data, you ever watch Star Trek?
Yeah, not.
For those of you who don't know Star Trek, Data was like this humanoid dude. He had all of humans' history and all the secrets of the galaxy thrown into his, hard drive. He looks like a human, but he's not human, right? He's still circuits. So he struggles with his individuality. He struggles with his emotions because he doesn't have emotions. He's a human. So if you see emotions, it's because he's pretending. Mm-hmm. He's an AI. This is 1980s, guys. This is something that's coming true now. It sounds like a lot like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
They have all this data, don't know how to use it. So this is where we're at right now. The goal, the secret of success right now is the world is at your fingertips. All the data in the world. You just have to figure out a good way to put it to use for yourself. That's it. That's the key. If there's one thing you get out of this whole thing is like, how can you leverage humans and AI to actually move the needle in your business, build a profitable, valuable brand that people trust, and build a community. And if you're doing that, you're going to win.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thanks so much. I got a ton of value. I'm sure everyone else did. We're going to have all of Jeff's links in the show notes below, and we'll catch you guys next time.